Welcome everybody. In our previous video, we explored Inferno and how it uses the Smart App Launch framework to connect apps to a FHIR server. While Inferno is an excellent tool for testing and learning Smart on FHIR and other FHIR specification, it's not a very great tool for FHIR data browsing. Today we're going to look at another very cool tool called Vanya that is specifically designed for browsing FHIR data. I'm on the Vanya Labs website at vanyalabs.com. There's a video by Darena, the tool's creator, which I highly recommend watching. He outlines the common issues FHIR developers face, which led him to build the tool. You can download the tool from this button here. It is a desktop application that is available for both Windows and Mac. I have already installed the tool on my machine. So let's go ahead and explore how we can use this tool with a MeldRx workspace. Okay, so I'm going to get started by clicking on the Add New Server button here. This will help us understand what all does Vanya need to connect to a FHIR server. As expected, it obviously requires a FHIR server and it requires the URL of that FHIR server. In addition, it will require a client ID that is registered with the FHIR server to connect to that FHIR server. This is very similar to what we saw in Inferno with the different flows. So let's go ahead and set up a workspace in MeldRx that we can use as a FHIR server for connecting. If you don't already have a MeldRx account, you can go to app.meldrx.com and click on the register button and sign up for free. I've already created the account and logged in, so I can straight away jump in there. I'm going to go ahead and create a new workspace in here. I'm going to select standalone workspace. And standalone workspaces are very similar to just a FHIR server. There's a lot more in it, but again, we are only going to be focusing on the FHIR server component of a standalone workspace. I'm going to click next. I'm just going to give it a name and I'm going to click on the create workspace button. That will give me the FHIR server that I need that I can connect from Vanya. So I'm going to go back to Vanya. I'm going to go ahead and copy that URL in there. I'm going to give it a name in here, there. And then for the client, before I go ahead and create actually a client ID, I can actually go ahead and just get the token endpoint from the metadata. So I can just copy that URL. I can just go to the metadata endpoint and I can copy the token URL from there and paste it back into Vanya. So the next step now is that I need a client that is, or an app that is registered in the MeldRx FHIR server. So I'm going to head back to our workspace. Let's first go ahead and complete this. And while we are on the workspace, we can go ahead and upload some data to it that we will be able to use from Vanya. So I'm going to just click on this import button there. And again, we can import a CCDA or we can import FHIR bundles. So I'm going to import the Alice Newman CCDA that we are all very familiar with. And then I'm going to go ahead and upload some other FHIR bundles. These are bundles that have some different FHIR resource types that helps us to explore different components. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and refresh the data and you can see now we have a couple of patients in the system. And again, I can go ahead and just open this patient in the app in here and view the data as a CCDA or other ways. But we are actually going to look through this data in Vanya. So with that is basically the first step of having a FHIR server ready with data. I'm going to now go back and create an app. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want to register a new app. I'm going to call the app Vanya. I'm going to select a system app. And then under scopes, I'm going to just select system star.read. So that will basically allow that app to connect and read all the resources in that FHIR server. I'm just going to click next. Next, we already created our workspace, so we don't need to create it here. And that will create the app for me. So now I can copy the client ID from here, that I will paste it there. And I'm going to copy the client secret from here that I can paste in there. For the grant type, since we are using a system app flow, I'm going to just go ahead and add in their client credentials. And then because we will be connecting using the Smart App Launch framework, I do need an extra parameter for scopes. And as we configured in our app, that will be system star.read. That should be all that we need to connect to the FHIR server. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And then I'm going to make sure that I can actually connect to this particular server. So now it basically shows me with this star that this is the active server. So let's go ahead and try to query for patients. And what you will see is like it will give me an error forbidden, which is again a 403 error. This is a similar error that we saw in Inferno 2 when we first tried to connect. This is because although I have created the app, but I haven't actually allowed that app to be connected to that FHIR server. So we need to do that. So I'm going to go back to my workspace, and in my workspace settings, I'm going to add that particular app to say that I'm going to allow this app to read data from this particular workspace. I'm going to head back to Vanya. And now if I go and click on patients, I can see that the 2 patients that we were seeing there are also now available from Vanya. I can go ahead and look at some of the other data too. So if I look at procedure, this is where Vanya really helps to understand the data. Not only can I see all the procedures, but I can actually see the links for each of those. I can actually click on them to go directly to that particular patient, or I can basically, if I can go back to the procedure here, I can also go into the encounter tab to see that particular resource that is linked to that. It also gives me a very detailed JSON view that I can see in here, as well as a summary view of that particular resource that I can browse from here. We can look at all the other observations. So again, it's a very simple to use tool where I can keep clicking on different observations or different procedures, all the different resources in here to browse it. It also allows me that if there is a particular ID that I want to search by, I can actually just copy that ID from some other resource and just paste that ID in there. And in that case, it will go directly to that particular ID for that resource and show me there. So that is again a very quick way to connect to Vanya. As we have seen, both Inferno and Vanya are great tools for FHIR developers. While Inferno is really great for understanding and testing smart app launch framework, Vanya really excels as a data browser. By using both these tools, FHIR developers can really build better health applications. Please do let us know if there are any other tools that you are aware of that you would like us to explore. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.